Wherever you are and however you're listening, thank you so much for being back with us on another episode of Winning the Moment. Today we have Shelby Meinkey with us, and he tells some amazing stories about rafting down the Grand Canyon. He spent 18 days on the river, and believe it or not, he actually went through some lava, ended up at Tequila Beach. You're going to have to wait till the end to hear that story, so be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned all the way through, and most importantly, enjoy the episode. For being back with us today. I love these episodes. When I get to meet someone for the first time, along with the listeners, I think it's really fun. And today I've got Shelby Meinkey with me. He is the CEO and owner of Moenave Garage Doors.
Yep.
And we have a couple friends in a similar circle, and he reached out, and so I'm excited to have him on, talk about a bunch of fun stuff. But Shelby, thank you for being here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me come on.
So we were jamming a little bit before the podcast and talking about like how you stumbled across it. And I think it's a great story. It's just amazing to see how I think you said the world's so big but so small at the same time. So I'd love to just for the listeners to hear about like how you first engaged with Winning the Moment.
Yeah, so I was in a spot. I just quit my job. I quit a stable job, a good job that I think a lot of people, it was a job that I wanted, actually. But then, like all things change.
Isn't it funny how something that you once wanted, you no longer do, you know?
You're like, oh, this isn't fun anymore. I don't want to do this anymore.
Well, and for the listeners, so we are in St. George, Utah. There's not a lot of great jobs. You know, I mean, they're not just readily available in St. George. If you don't own your own business and you're working for somebody, there's not a lot of things you can do for somebody else that's going to provide a good living for you here. So to walk away from something like that can be pretty scary.
Yeah, and I noticed a lot of people that own their own company or, were self-employed, they had a lot more freedom.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the restrictions that I had.
Yeah.
So, I was in a spot where I'd quit my job. I started my new company, and it's hard. It's if anyone's ever started a company, you go through a lot, and it's painful. It's not easy, and I can see why a lot of people don't do it and why I didn't do it for a long time.
Yeah. Well, and why so many fail.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I think I was enjoying Spotify podcasts and just like the motivational, because it helps you kind of, get out of your rut, because you're like, hey, like, don't give up. Like, you can get through this.
Yeah.
Like, and so, yeah, I followed your podcast, and I don't even think I listened to an episode, but I didn't realize you were local.
Yeah.
And I'm friends with Tav Calico. I went to school with him, and I friends with him on like Instagram, and he had shared his podcast that he was on for years, and I was like, oh, this guy's local. This is really cool.
What a crazy thing to think that you followed a podcast on Spotify and then just happened to be in the exact same town that you're in.
Yeah.
And now you're on the podcast.
Yeah. So, I mean, it popped up in my Spotify feed, so that's cool. I don't know if you do anything to make that happen.
I don't. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Spotify.
Yeah, good for you guys. What else? Oh, yeah. So anyways, I started listening to your podcast, and it's good. And I think I reached out to you today. I was like, you want to know what? Like, I have some good stories that I can tell Cody. So I reached out, we got on, and here we are. So I want to talk about being stuck in so we all set goals, right? We have goals, we want to achieve them, and we want to get there. And I was there, and I was doing my thing for a long time, and I was dreading to go to work on Mondays.
Sunday scaries.
Sunday night, you're like, oh man, I had so much fun this weekend. Like, why? I don't want to go to work.
I think everyone can relate to that. Everyone's been there. They're there now, or they've been there before. If you haven't, you will at some point.
Yeah. So I got into meditation a couple of years back, and I found so much. It's really good to just find it we're so distracted, right? There's so much distractions going on.
Oh yeah.
In day-to-day life. And so if you can find a time that you can have 15, 20, 30 minutes and just kind of sit and just have your thoughts, it creates like an avenue where things kind of boil up to the surface that you're not really thinking about. And it was almost a year ago. I think it was last April. I was sitting there meditating, and then it was just like, why are you working for somebody? Why don't you work for yourself? And it seems so easy, like, duh, why didn't you think about that earlier? But you're busy, you're trying to live your life. And that idea popped into my head, and I was just like, holy smokes, I got to do this. And I walked inside. I was sitting in her hot tub at like 6 a.m, just like
Yeah.
enjoying the spring morning. I walked in and told my wife, I'm like, I'm going to quit my job. And she's like, what? Are you crazy? I'm like, yeah, this is what I got to do.
Do you have kids?
Yeah.
So much scarier to do it at that point in
yeah,
life.
like I have a mortgage, I have truck payments. Like I'm the sole provider I have 3 kids. And it's like,
Oh,
I'm going to
yeah.
quit my stable job with like health insurance and everything and like try to pursue something. But it's like, I wouldn't say it's a midlife crisis, but it's like, I'm almost 40. I haven't taken a lot of risks in my life. It's like, I got to do this. And it was so calming to like know that I have to do this.
Real quick, why do you think you haven't taken risks?
You don't want to lose stuff. Like it's scary.
Fear.
Yeah, it's fear.
Yeah.
So, I was so calm and collective about it. It's like, I know I have to do this. So I just started setting goals and just checking boxes, like just kept it super simple. Cause I'm sort of a perfectionist.
Uh-huh.
And if I can just set small achievable goals, I can just slightly turn the wheel and just start working that direction.
Dare I say win the moment?
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me this, fear for risk. And isn't it so much more fear? Like there's so much more fear involved when you are that sole provider,
Yeah.
right? Because it's one thing if it was just you and you're taking a risk, the only person that would be affected by that risk not going the way you want to is yourself.
Yeah.
But when you have a wife and 3 kids, it makes that risk so much more daunting.
Yeah, totally. I got into like doing adventures, like backpacking, kayaking, like planning trips, planning big daunting tasks that require time and like a lot of time leading up to it, and like going and doing it and like enjoying like the journey of like doing something that's difficult and that's hard, and then like traveling places. When you're there, like it's scary to like, oh, I can't do that because of this, X, Y, and Z. Like you start all these little roadblocks, but like just setting these little goals and achieving them. And so I was doing all these adventures and learning so much about myself, and like that, dude, like you can put yourself in difficult situations and you can get out of them, and you're not just going to like roll over and give up.
Yeah.
And so like I had the confidence slowly over time that I was like, no, dude, I got this. I'm going to do it. I don't care how long it takes and how many times I fell. I'm going to make this work.
Well, and I think when you have something to look forward to, it helps with those Sunday scaries too. Because it's like, oh, I got a trip in 2 months. Like, I'll be on it before you know it, or I'm doing this stuff to get ready for this trip. It's nice to always have that thing you're looking forward to.
Yeah. So in 2023, was last year, I got invited on a Grand Canyon trip, full on 18 days, private trip. Like you shut your phone off and you disappear into the Grand Canyon. And if people don't like kayak or do any kind of water sports, you don't realize how cool it is for like the government to basically like say, hey, you and your friends, you can go through the national park and like go enjoy yourselves. Because it's hard. Like people apply for permits for the Grand Canyon their whole life to go on a trip, and you never get to go.
Well, if you're listening to this, we had Sam Edwards on the podcast who decided not to go through that process and went rafting on the Grand Canyon anyways. And
I don't
got
know
in a lot
Sam,
of trouble
but
for that.
I know who Sam is. Yeah.
Got in a lot of trouble for that.
But it's just like being scared. So like I got invited on this trip. It takes a year. You plan for a year for this trip, and we're sitting at Lee's Ferry, and I'm rowing a boat. Like I got me and my wife on a 2,000 pound, 18-foot inflatable raft. And I'm going to like push off from here in the morning, and I can't give up. Like you don't just like
your kids too, or just you and your wife?
No, just me and my wife.
Okay.
And so it's like, I'm going to be fully committed to this adventure for the next 18 days, and I can't tap out of it. Like this is scary because whitewater is a big deal. Some of those rapids, they drop 20 or 30 feet.
Water is scary.
Totally.
We were just on the beach in Huntington, and my son was boogie boarding. He's 7, and he'd never really been in the ocean that much at this point in his life. Like he's been in the shallows, but not like riding a wave. And so he didn't yet have respect for the ocean.
Yeah.
And then the waves were pretty big at this day. And so he took one and like scorpioned over it and really quickly realized like Mother Nature is to be respected,
For sure.
I mean, he in that moment, he was fine, but he felt like he was going to die. Like that was the fear that was inside of him as he was like toppling over in the water, I
did Westwater, which is outside of Grand Junction. It's like a class It's a stacked class 3, class 4, depending on the flow.
Is class 5 the biggest?
Class 5 is the biggest.
Okay.
That's like, it's almost, I mean, people that are really good, they're professional kayakers can do it, but it's like, it's unnavigable is what the term is. It's
Okay.
like, it's pretty sketch. But I swam Skull, which is one of the nastier rapids, and it's humbling.
So you swam it?
Well, not on purpose.
Okay. You ended up out of your boat.
There's rapids like in the Grand Canyon that are super safe. They're big water, like scary water, but there's no holes that'll catch you. They're just giant waves. And so people will actually get on inflatable. I mean, they're down the Grand Canyon. They'll bring like a giant inflatable flamingo and ride it through some of the rapids, like Hermit. So there's stuff that you can swim. But anyways, Westwater, I swam Skull, and it's humbling. It's totally humbling. So a great respect for the water. So like we're at Lee's Ferry, and I'm looking like, oh man, like I can get out of this. And I was like, can you imagine if I walked away from this? This is like a lifetime.
The doorstep of the adventure.
Yeah, like I'm at like everything. The boat's loaded. We spent all day rigging, and we're just sitting there, and you can see down the canyon where like the river disappears, and it's like it's so easy just to give up. I could just leave. I don't have to do this. But
so you start in Lee's Ferry and end up where?
So there's 2 places you can get out. It's Diamond and Diamond Creek, and then you can actually go all the way to Lake Mead. So it's like 200 miles roughly.
That's
230.
crazy.
Oh yeah, you have to bring all your food. You have to pack out all your waste. Have you ever been down the Grand Canyon?
No. I was telling you, we've got a property we manage called Cliff Dwellers. That's a hotel there. And then they do like fishing tours, Lee Fair's anglers, kayak horseshoe bend. And so that's my only exposure to it.
Do they have a restaurant?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that's like the main restaurant you go to. So when people are doing private or commercial trips, you go to Lee's Ferry and you have a rig day where you load all the stuff on the boats. And then you usually go to dinner at that place.
At Cliff Dwellers.
So I've been to Cliff Dwellers and had dinner. But it's phenomenal what the Park Service has done. So every day at Lee's Ferry, there's 2, I think it depends on the season, right? So you get 2 to 3 private trips launch a day.
Okay.
And a private trip has like about up to 18 people on it. And then you'll do 3 commercial trips.
So do you have like a guide then in your group who's like making sure you guys are safe and everything, or is it kind of self-directed?
It's self-directed. So a private trip basically means like you and your friends can get together in a trip. Now you're not going to let's walk in green. Like to get the permit, it's an honor system. You have to check off all these boxes. You have to be able.
Okay, you know what you're doing.
The government's like, hey, you need to know what you're doing. So there's boxes you have to check that you can actually get the permit. But they launch all these launches every day, but they've spaced them. So anytime at the river, there's hundreds of people on the river. But when you're going down it, you're all spaced like just far enough away from each other that you don't really see anybody. So you spend all day in this beautiful place, the Grand Canyon.
Being on that water and looking up at the cliffs, there's something about you can feel it energetically. Yeah. Like it's different.
It's nice to feel really small in very big places.
Yeah.
And so like you get to feel really small there. And you get to do that for a while. And if you ever get invited on a Grand Canyon trip, you drop everything and go. It's a big deal. It's life-changing. The person that goes in there and leaves will be different.
I believe it.
And when you get out of there, you've been disconnected
I know, that's the thing.
For so long that like...
Or have you been connected, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then Starlink or all the phone, there's going to be 5G down there in like a year.
Watching Netflix down the river.
Yeah, and that's when you're down there, you don't even think about social media.
Well, that's what I love about like Lake Powell. I think there's service there now. But when I first went to Lake Powell, once you're on the lake, it was like nothing worked.
Yeah,
and so it was like you really got to escape.
Well, now if you go up like mid lake, you can see Navajo Mountain. There's a cell tower up there, so that's how I know. If you see Navajo Mountain, you can you get service. I think you get like 5G.
Of course. So are you a conspiracy theorist at all?
I'll entertain stuff.
Do you know about the Grand Canyon stuff? Like all the stories? There's some stories about the Grand Canyon. Yeah. I mean, I know that there's supposedly this cave that has like Egyptian hieroglyphs and pottery and like all these things that should have never, there should be no way that it could have ever made its way in there.
Yeah. So one of them's Stanton's Cave. And it's by Vasey's Paradise. There's a couple spots in Grand Canyon where you're just cruising along and you look up and there's just water coming out of the wall. It's the coolest thing. It's like It's ancient water too. Shout out to Craig Childs. Hundreds, thousands of year old water just comes out of the limestone like a river. It's the coolest thing.
Wow.
But right by there is Stanton's Cave. And I think it's even cooler about this is they've found like driftwood up there. And it's like 100+ feet above the river. And there's driftwood in there, like showing like floods that have come through there.
Wow.
Yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff down there. You can spend a lifetime down there. There was actually a book that just barely came out. It's called A Walk in the Park. Kevin Fedarko, I think that's his name. He wrote it. Him and Pete McBride walked the entire length of the Grand Canyon, and there's like no trails. It's all routes and just bushwhacking.
Wow. Like at the bottom of it.
Top and bottom depends. Sometimes they're down by the river. Sometimes they're up on top. But he wrote a whole book about it. It's phenomenal. There's also a book that he wrote. It's the Emerald Mile. You grew up here, right? You were saying that. But,
I went to high school here.
Okay. So in the 80s, when Lake Powell was full, remember hearing about when the lake?
I was born in 87, lived in Wyoming at the time. So
yeah, so late 80s, Lake Powell was completely full of water, and there was so much snow melt coming from Colorado that the dam was, it was full, and they had opened all like the side vents.
Yeah.
They couldn't get water out of Lake Powell fast enough, so the water just kept going up.
What a wild thing.
Totally wild. And it was going to go over the top. So anyways, the Colorado River below the Grand Canyon, below the Glen Canyon Dam is cranking. And this total, can I swear?
Yeah.
This total badass river guide, dude. He's like, you know, let's do a speed run. Let's see if we can get through the Grand Canyon as fast as possible and set like a new record. And he's been thinking about it forever.
This is like the perfect moment.
Perfect moment. So Kevin Fedarko wrote a book about it. It's called The Emerald Mile. And it's dude, you know when you pick up a book and you just can't like set it down?
Yeah,
it's so good. That's one of those. Maybe for me because I like
connected
that kind of
to
stuff.
it. Yeah,
it's such a cool book. But yeah, I don't even know how they did it, how fast it was, but phenomenal book. And the river was scary.
Oh, I couldn't imagine
at that flow.
I floated down in St. George. We have the Virgin River, and in 2005 when it flooded, me and somebody.
Oh yeah, when the houses fell in.
Yeah. Me and somebody was like, "Oh, let's go get a tube and like a raft and go down it." And so,
when it was flooding?
Yeah.
You guys are crazy.
And so...
Wait, how old are you, though? That would have been...
Like 17, 16.
Yeah, okay, that fits the bill. We would all have done that.
I'd say stupid more than crazy, right? Unaware. And so like we went to Target and bought like the cheapest, I don't know, $40, $60 raft,
This thing could save my life, but let's save some money.
And so like we're in it, me and my buddy, we're both 6'3". Dale Finlinson, if you're listening, shout out to you. So 2'6'3", at that time probably 180-pound kids in this raft. And like I ended up going overboard or something trying to like get us unstuck. And in my mind, I could just stand up in the river. The river was deeper than I was tall.
You went to stand up
and couldn't. And that was like that moment of
what section of it?
That was like behind St. James is like the part of the river that we were in at that time. Okay. And that was a real like, oh shit moment because it was humming.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I could just stand up. And so when I went to touch and then I was underwater, it was like, oh shit.
No life jacket, right?
Of course not. I'm like, oh shit. Like I'm actually, and I know how to swim, but I'm not a good swimmer by any
It's a whole different ball game when the water's moving. It's not a pool.
Yeah. I definitely had a moment there of like, and the raft was too small. I couldn't get like myself back in it.
Yeah.
So then it was just like
you couldn't self-rescue.
I just got to swim to shore, you know, and the river's pushing
there's
me.
No shore right there because it's so high. It's in the weeds.
Not really.
So you're going into like the tamarisks and
it was scary.
How'd that feel? Yeah, that didn't feel very.
Like I was not in control because I wasn't.
Yeah.
And we had like we had a summer league basketball game that night, and so we just end up walking like barefoot out to, I don't even know what road it is where the Maverick is now, where like Smith's is, like barefoot, like hitchhiking so we can get back to our cars so we can get to the basketball game.
And your mom probably had no clue what was going on.
Of course not. I don't even know if I ever even told him.
I think about all the things. I wasn't a crazy kid, but I had a little dirt bike and I lived in Bloomington, so I could just go out in the desert
anywhere. Yeah.
And it was just like my mom be like, "Hey, just be home for dinner." Like that is so much fun.
And I feel bad that kids don't have that freedom that we did.
Yeah. Well, cell phones, they're like, I get it. Like, it's just like, it grabs your attention. You don't want to do anything else. And I think when you're older, you kind of have that, like now I'm like, come on guys, let's go outside. Let's go do something. Like,
yeah,
you're so much more to gain. Like I love getting up early and like doing something hard, like usually outside, riding a bike or like going for a run.
Well, in the desert, it's the only time it's nice to be outside.
Oh, right now, like going for a walk. I mean, it's like 80 degrees right now when you wake up, right?
Yeah.
And it's gross. Like I get it. It's not fun, but you think about it, like going for a walk when it's 80 degrees outside and the sun's not quite up is actually really nice.
It's beautiful.
I look forward to it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go for a walk.
Yeah, early morning is the best.
Because the rest of the day, it's like our winter right now. This is
Yeah.
our winter. You just hide inside.
100%. It's so hot. My kids don't even want to swim. Like I was like, oh, I have a pool. It'll be great. But it's like, I'm like, you want to go swimming? They're like, no.
Yeah, the pool's probably above 80, the water.
Oh,
right?
for sure. Yeah.
It's like 85.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we bought an above ground pool this year and the kids love it. Best $500 I've spent. In a long
No
time.
kidding.
Yeah.
When I used to live in Arizona, when I would golf, I would go, I think at like my tee time was like 5:40 was the earliest one they would do.
Okay.
And so I'd go to the driving range and I'm just hitting balls into the dark because that part of the morning in the desert is just serene. It's perfect.
It's magical.
It really
I
is.
look forward to it. And it's like, you go and do that and you're like, that was worth it. Like
Every single time.
You don't go and do that and like, that was dumb. I'm never doing that again.
100% of the time. And I played pickleball last night, and we were in Little Valley, and so like the sunset was going down, and you could see the mountains, and it was just like, damn, it's so beautiful here.
It works. I have a saying like I don't have any tattoos, but I'm gonna get a tattoo, and it's gonna be on my leg. It says it is always worth it.
I like that.
Because usually what happens is you're sitting outside, you're on your phone, you're thinking about doing something, and you're like, I don't want to do it. It's kind of hard. But you look at that, you're like, dude, it's always worth it. I don't really have regrets, you know? Like there's so many things that I've done that either was stupid or not right, or I learned something, but I'm never like, I wish I never did that.
Yeah, I feel that way all the time. Like even like a party or a get together, even the podcast, sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it today. But after I'm always like, that was fucking awesome. So
Yeah.
glad I did that, you know?
Even like you wake up, you have something hard to do for work or some challenge, you get done, you're like, that was so worth it.
Yeah, it's amazing how different it is once you've gotten through it. I want to circle back though, because you said something that really connected. So you meditated in April and you came in and you said to your wife, I'm quitting my job.
Yeah.
How long from that morning to when you quit?
So that was April. I did the Grand Canyon in June, and that was, I think, that was an accelerator. It was like
Because you experienced life, and you're like, "What am I doing?"
Yeah, and I mean, I had done some cool adventures before, but that was like the pinnacle of like probably the coolest thing I've ever done.
Wow.
And so that was and then I started checking the boxes off. I was like, okay, well, I got to make a list of the things I have to do to reach my goal. And the first one was like, I got to get a contractor's license. So it was like that night, I remember like, oh, so I quit my job in September. So, I mean, it was less than 6 months.
Isn't it amazing? I just want to talk a little about it because, you know, you talked about meditating in 15 minutes. And I think so many people never actually think intentionally. They're just subconsciously living their life. So like thoughts come in and words come out, but you're not like really strategically thinking.
Writing it down. Like writing it down is a huge thing. Like, so when I meditate, it's not like every time you do it, you like connect into it. And like some days you do it and you're like,
maybe your head's just thinking about like soccer practice tonight.
There's too much going on.
What am I doing on Friday?
Yeah, but sometimes there's gold and I write them down and I look at them later. I'm like, oh yeah, like that's gold. It just creates a nice place where you can let things that you're not really thinking about like boil up.
Well, and that's what I think is so powerful of it, especially for the people listening who are like, oh, you own your own business. You don't understand what it's like. I just work for someone 9 to 5. But it's like it started with a thought. It started with an intentional purpose and a thought. And then you vocalize that thought. So you put it out in the universe. You told your wife. And then so April, May, June, July, August. So 5 months later, you execute it, right? And now you have your own company. And it brings me back to a moment in September of last year. I got asked to speak at an event in Columbus, and then it was a part of the Summit of Greatness, which is Lewis Howes. Do you know who Lewis Howes is?
No, I don't.
Real great thought leader. His event, and I'm sitting in the event, and I look at my wife. I said, "What I need is my own business. Like I need something that's mine because I have businesses, but I have partners in all of them." And I was like, "I need something that's mine." And that was in September. And before the end of the year, I'd bought out my partner and had the company be mine. And so now we're sitting here today, and it's July, and it's like looking back on that moment, it's like it hasn't even been a year yet since I said those words. And now all of these things are happening and all these incredible things are happening in my life because it started with a thought and then I vocalized it and then action came after,
Totally.
And to think back now to what's possible for my life and to think like, when you see people go to things or they have a coach and you always wonder like, oh, I wonder if it's worth it. Like that moment being at that event will now change the trajectory of my entire life.
Sure.
Just like for you sitting and taking 15 minutes to meditate. And a lot of people think they don't have time to meditate or they can't fit it in their schedule. It's like you sit on the toilet for 15 minutes, like,
Oh,
you can figure it out. There's plenty of time in the
excuse.
day. And so I just think that that's a great story for people to connect with and even you had the wife and the 3 kids. You had lots of reasons to not do it.
Absolutely.
But you did, and I think that's awesome.
I'm glad. I'm happy. It's opened up it like opened a door to a whole different way of looking at life and how to live life.
Well, it's so different because when you own your own business. So even like for me, when I had my partner, it's like then it was really just the business, right? But now that it's ours, my wife and I, now it's like, oh, we're flying to Spokane next week to go to our friend's lake house, and it's like, oh, the company's going to pay for our flights because it's a work trip.
Yeah, it's a work trip. Yeah,
but I couldn't have done that before.
Expense. Yeah.
And so it's like you get this flexibility and this way to there's a system that exists and you can use that system to your advantage. And now I get to like really fully execute on that because I don't have to get anyone else's permission, or if I buy flights, then you got to buy flights. You know what I mean? Like keeping it equitable. So that has totally transformed the things that we're able to do.
I like to like take things apart and figure out how they work and put them back together.
Yeah.
And I was always doing that with just like little things, almost like a distraction. And it's like, I never did it with like a business, something that like I can make money on and like work on. And it's so exciting to like, the future is so bright.
Yeah.
That there's so many things that I can do now and like try out. And hey, maybe this is going to fail, but I'm going to try it and just see what happens.
And you're driving your life.
Yeah. I don't have to like ask for like the day off or like schedule. You know what I mean? Like
right.
I work just enough right now that I like pay my bills. I can have some freedom and I can save some money. And like, I don't have to work 70, 80. I don't have to work crazy. It's like setting my goals. And like for right now, like year number 1, I love it. It's great.
Is this year number 1? Was it September of that last year that you quit
it hasn't even been a year yet.
Wow.
So it's been, well, actually it's close. We're getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest like aha moment for you as being an entrepreneur?
There are so many ways that you can make money. Like just like nailing down like niche things, just little things that you would never realize. And I want everyone to realize that and experience that. Like you can do it. Like I was installing insulation 15 years ago, like just like a crap. It's an entry level job, like just not fun, but you work, you
fun.
Insulation in St. George is not fun.
I couldn't imagine.
It's not fun at all. Garage doors is still hot too. Like in the summertime, like right now it's hot, but it's great. I love it. I'm super happy. It's like no regrets.
And will you have any intentions of being larger than St. George, or St. George probably has plenty of houses to put garage doors on?
I really like St. George. I think that would be one regret, or I guess you ask people that is like, what's a failure that you've had?
Yeah, what's one of your biggest losses?
I wouldn't say it's a loss because I'm happy where I'm at right now, but I wish I moved away when I was in my 20s.
100%.
And just got to experience a different place.
Yeah.
That's like a regret that I have. I should have done that.
I try and tell all young people, like, once you find your person, go somewhere with that person and experience life as the two of you, outside of your parents and her parents and your family and your friends. Like go figure out who you want to be together.
Yeah.
And be in a different culture and a different experience. We were really lucky that Megan and I got to do that, not because we had this amazing thought of like, let's go experience. I just got promoted to a place that wasn't here.
Yeah.
And so it kind of forced us into that, but I'm so thankful for it. And then we had our marketing company in Houston. So we've lived here, Phoenix and Houston was like a different world. Like so different, but I'm so thankful for those opportunities and exposure to different cultures.
Yeah. We are like encouraging our kids, like, please, like when you get in your 20s, like go, like, don't just jump right into marriage or a career. Like just just travel a little bit and just kind of, maybe you'll find something completely different. If not, you can always come back home. Like this is
Well, and you talked about risk, and that's one thing I tell college students all the time when I talk to them is like, take those risks when you're young before you have like the burdens of life.
yeah, a mortgage or kids, or when you're 20, like you don't realize when you're 20, like how much of the world is in your hands that you can go and get, and at least turn the direction and start working on. I mean, you're not going to get results like right now.
Right.
But you can like steer the ship and start heading that direction. And I wish I had that insight when I was 20.
Well, I was even thinking about, so my son just turned 8 on Wednesday. And I'd never been in hospitality before, but 8 years ago, when we had our marketing company in Houston, my wife got pregnant with our son. So 9 years ago, we said, well, let's go back to St. George. We'll move back home. And so I was still in Houston working with the Astros. So I was traveling back and forth when the Astros were out of town. And my buddy Breck, his family owned the Cliff Rose, and they had this website, zionnashpark.com. He said, well, trying to get this website off the ground, like, why don't you, you're a great salesperson, why don't you go sell listings for me? I was like, okay, sweet. Like, I need something to do when I'm here anyways. This will be awesome. So I went to Springdale and I like knocked on all the doors, door to door, like, hey, come be on our website. I didn't know anything about hospitality, didn't know anything about tourism. And so it's crazy to think, like, because I was willing to do kind of like what you said with the insulation, like a pretty grunty job, like no pay, commission only, knocking on doors in the summer.
Sure.
You know, no GM or owner of a business wants to even entertain that conversation in the middle of their day, checking in guests. And that's what I did. Yeah. And then I got me into the industry, and then it led to where we are now. And now I own a hospitality company, all started by selling listings on a website.
When you were knocking on that, because didn't you do work for them? Like, don't you do work for Cliffside?
So I started doing that, and then we ended up getting an office together, which we still have. And I was getting licensed to be a financial advisor, and so I was like, well, I need an office to do that. But also, like, why don't you put me on like a retainer now that after like 6 months, and that way I can still represent ZionNationalPark.com and all of those things. And then Breck overheard me having a conversation with my wife about our personal budget. She had gone over her budget by $5. 9 years later, it's still a problem.
Really?
Yeah, she's a spender. But he was like, wow, because our walls are paper thin. So if I'm having a conversation in my office, anyone can hear it. And he was like, man, no one's ever treated the finances of our business the way that you treat the finances for your family. Like, I need to hire you to be the CFO of the Cliff Rose. And so that's where it really got started. And then that's when we wanted to convert the Cliff Rose to either the Marriott or the Hilton Autograph or Curio collection. And then we found out we needed a management company. So we created Vibrant Management just so we could manage that property. Yeah. And then after we got into it, we're like, man, this is great. We learned all this amazing stuff. Let's share that with more people. And then now, fast forward to where we're at now, we got properties all over the United States.
That's how you met Tav, right? He did the I remember he did the website for that, right?
He did the design for the website, yes, and he did the logo. It's one of the best logo designs ever. The Cliff Rose. It's
funny that I remember that. I remember him like posting on, maybe was it MySpace back then? I don't even know what it was. It was some social media platform. I remember him posting, like staying up late, like trying to get this done, and I can still remember that. So,
and I believe he did the first one too. So he did like the original, or not the first, because they've been open for 30 years, but he did one a long time ago. And then when we went and did the rebrand, Hilton had like all these people they wanted you to work with, and we got Tavish's company approved for Hilton so they could do it with us. And then he made the new logo version you see today, and it's amazing.
What do you think is going to happen with like Colorado City and Hilldale?
I don't know. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful backdrops in the world.
It is the most beautiful backdrop in the world.
I mean, they definitely put their roots down in the right spot. I mean, it's growing. So we manage a property out there, Water Canyon Winery. There, Shane and Callie have this amazing winery out there.
Really?
And yeah, it's so it's the grapes that they used for communion back in the day, like when they were drinking wine.
The vineyard.
Yes, it's the FLDS grape vineyard.
Oh, that's cool. Cool story.
And so Shane and Callie make their wine with no nitrates, no preservatives. Like, it's some of the best wine I've ever had. It's amazing. And the vineyard is beautiful. And what's crazier is, what's the guy, Warren Jeffs?
Yeah.
So when you're in the vineyard, his house is right there. And on the chimney, it says, pray and obey.
Doesn't it say stay? Oh, he says stay sweet.
Yeah, I think the chimney, it says obey it.
Did you see that documentary?
Oh, yeah. Keep sweet.
Keep sweet. That place has come a long way in 5 years. I look at like St. George or Zion or anything right now, and like it's booming and stuff, but like, what's it going to be like in like 50 more years?
Well, right now, so there's a place called Trees Ranch when you're coming into Springdale. It's where all that like that apple orchard is, and there's that little building there. It's Wild Time Cafe Springdale now. And so I can't remember who bought it, but then the computer guy bought it.
Computer guy.
Bill Gates' like partner,
Really?
the guy who owned the Trailblazers. I can't think of his name. Blake, will you look it up? The guy who owned the Trailblazers and died.
Yeah.
So that guy owned it. He's who brought fiber to Springdale because he bought like the best piece of land in the history of time. And he bought that and he was like, "Why need internet?" So he paid himself to bring fiber all the way up there and then gave it to the town.
Or did it like stop in Hurricane or Virgin?
Probably Hurricane, I bet you.
Oh, dang. That's probably pretty expensive to run fiber clear.
Yeah, it doesn't matter for him. And then he passed away, I think maybe 2 years ago.
Paul Allen?
Paul Allen, that's what it is. Yep, so he owned that. Thank you, Blake. And when he passed away, it went for sale. And I don't think I can disclose the amount it sold for, but it's the best buy in the history of all time. And it is not in the town of Springdale, which town of Springdale basically is very non-pro business. It's like one of those, we live here and we don't want anyone else to live here type of things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
not in my back. Nimba, is that what it is?
Yeah. And so they don't really want anything to happen. But this particular plot of land, which is phenomenal, has a lake and everything. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I like to look at maps.
Yeah.
Like on
so
my
then
free
you would
time.
know.
I've seen that lake.
Yeah.
And I've seen the property, and I've always kind of wondered, like, who is this? I didn't look at the parcel data, but I've looked at that and wondered.
It's the best piece of land in the history of the world. And so now they are in the process of developing a $500 million resort right there. So
like BlackRock kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's going to be insane.
Good. Zion needs more people. I don't go to Zion very much just because I don't want to deal with.
Yeah, I think it's like Disneyland, you know, like you figure out when to go. And like I just went to Disneyland on 4th of July with my family, and we went early and we navigated in a way that it was still really awesome. Like our average wait time was 10 minutes, but I'm sure there's people who went on the 4th of July and said, "This is the worst experience I've ever had." It's all about understanding how you're going to navigate it and when you're going to go and how you're going to go there.
We're never going to Disneyland ever again. Last time we went, we weren't smart. We went like on a Saturday, like in the busy season. And it was like, what are we doing? We're never coming here again.
Yeah, we hadn't been for a couple of years. We went on New Year's. And so we went because my son's birthday was last Wednesday, and a summer birthday for a kid's tough. People are gone. You're not at school to give out invitations. Like, why don't we just take you to Disneyland? And so
instead of doing like a friend party, it's like a family thing.
Yep. So there's the 4 of us. And so we got there right in the morning, hit Indiana Jones. And then and I was 4th of July. So I was like, this worry, like it could be good or it could be the dumbest thing we've ever done. Like we may ruin our lives. And so we hit Indiana Jones. Perfect. We get out of Indiana Jones and the park is like empty. And we're like, wow, this is so weird. So we walked to Pirates of the Caribbean, walk right onto the ride. Literally no wait.
Because it was too hot?
No, it's just, I think people were planning, because it was open till midnight for 4th of July.
Okay.
So I think a lot of people were just coming for the second half of the day.
Okay.
And so we legit, the longest we probably ever waited was like maybe 15 minutes, but our average wait time for the day was less than 10 minutes, and we rode every ride we wanted. And they've got that Genie app you can buy now, so you get to choose what rides you want to fast pass on. Like you don't have to walk to it.
I'm not in that world, so I don't know anything about it.
It was amazing. So you just look at it, and then some you have to pay extra for, but it's like, I'll pay $75 and not wait in a line for an hour.
Sure.
Like every single time. And so, yeah, it was great. It was awesome. We loved it.
I like to find ways to have fun that doesn't cost a lot of money. And so I love, we kayaked the Narrows this spring, like in Zion Narrows when the river got high enough.
Oh, yeah.
We went down it and
no shit.
It took all day. It was so much fun.
Oh, that is awesome.
You got to get a permit, and it's seriously, I think the day before or the day after we were there, someone had to get search and rescue, like life flight in there, because there's a mandatory portage that you have to get out of your boat. And
that's what portage means. You got to get your boat out of the water and
portage. Yeah, you got to go around the rapid. You don't run it. It's unrunnable. And if you do, like, the chance of death is so high that you portage it. But I guess some people didn't know that. They were just like, hey, let's just go down there and have fun, and they didn't respect it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened, but it wasn't good.
Oh shit!
But anyways, it's so cool, because have you ever hiked the Narrows? Not your thing?
No, I'd love to, but I'm one of those, like, it's my job kind of, and so I don't ever find myself there. I shouldn't say this like on public airwaves that I've not done that. Every time I meet new clients, they'll ask me that question. It's like, nope, never done it.
Yeah. Well, you get bombarded by people. A good time to go. Well, I won't say when a good time to go is. So November. No, don't even say it.
What's so cool about Southern Utah, we brought these writers in from all over the country, like do a piece on the area and about the hotels and stuff. And we had them come. Maybe it was December, but they hiked the Narrows in wet gear. And then they went and they skied the next day in Bryan Head. And then I think they played golf like the next day. Yeah. And it was like, you can do so much here. It's just incredible.
You really can, like just driving. So we did a backpacking trip in the Sierra Nevada mountains in California. And it's like, I can be there in 6 hours.
Well, yeah. Even Disneyland for us, it was 6 hours. I mean, that's relatively, that's not like that's garage door to hotel, 6 hours. That's nothing.
Yeah. And so you can get the ocean, you can go skiing, you can go to the Grand. There's all these parks. I really like St. George. I'm happy here. It's circling back to like if I'd ever expand or like right now, if I can just keep this going how I have it and stay here, I love this. And next year we'll check on something different. But right, I love St. George.
St. George is the greatest place to raise a family.
Yes.
There's just no doubt about it.
I have one of those Ring cameras like that looks at my driveway to like catch any inappropriate or
nefarious activities.
Yeah. And it's like nothing happened. Like it's boring. Yeah. It's so boring. Yeah. And it's just the street or however it's set up. But like, oh, there's a skunk one day or a cat. But like, it's a great place. And I'm not worried about all of, the bad things that can happen.
Well, and you realize it too when you do go to California, right? Like we go into California and with my son, it's like, if we're going to the bathroom, it's like you stay right next to me at the urinal. Yeah. Like you don't even, like we're still like staying connected, Yeah. And you just realize how different it is. I don't ever have that fear in St. George.
No, you don't even think about it.
And even like I actually thought this is funny that we're here. So I went to the gym yesterday, and I had my Bork backpack, has my laptop and my iPad and everything in it, my truck, and I grabbed my gym bag, and I actually thought to myself like, man, how nice that I don't have to bring my backpack in because someone's going to break my window and steal it.
My wife's purse got a window got smashed. It's at Chuckawalla Trailhead. We were rock climbing. This is like 10 years ago, and we had left it right on the front seat, just didn't think about it, and someone smashed the window and stole it.
They're probably from California.
Yeah. But you want to know what? Speaking of a good thing, my wife works at Red Rock Bicycles, and I think she like took a bike in or something. She had her wallet, and she set it on the bike rack and like went to drive home, and it fell off on like 100 South. And I think she got halfway home and she called me and she's freaking out. Like, all right, we'll start. She went back and couldn't find the wallet. She's like, someone took the wallet. So then it's panic mode, right? You're calling all the credit cards, canceling everything. And you're like, we got everything. I think I had just canceled the last card or like blocked it. And then I get a phone call and she's like, are you related to like my wife's name? Yeah. And she had found out that I was her husband and Googled me and then got my phone number and called me. Wow. And like we went and got it. And
what a good Samaritan.
It's like, thank you. Because there was cash in there. There was a couple $100 cash in there. And she didn't,
That's amazing.
It's great.
Yeah, it's a great place to live. I'm so thankful that I get to raise my kids here. I couldn't think of anywhere better to raise them. A little bit hot in the summer, but I don't mind the heat. I grew up in the cold, so I'd take the heat over the cold any day.
I would too. I don't want to deal with snow. I can stand, like, because you can just go up to Bryan. Like,
I like to visit snow.
Yeah, and like Pine Valley, like on a Sunday, like this time of year, like I'll go trail run. You're not really running, but you're moving quickly through the forest. But like go up to Pine Valley, like early, like leave 5 o'clock, drive up there, go to the top to the summit, and it's like 60 degrees.
That's what's so cool. Yeah, like Bryan Head, my in-laws have property up there, and it's 20 to 30 degrees cooler, and it's like an hour and 15 minutes away, and you're in the mountains, So it's like...
As soon as I leave here, we're going up to the Boulder Mountains, which is kind of by Bryce Canyon.
Yeah, further.
The Aquarius Plateau. A little bit further.
Yeah, beautiful though.
Beautiful, and it's quiet. There's no one there.
Yeah, Boulder Mountain's awesome.
You've been there before? Mm-hmm. You go fishing? Or?
No, they used to. Before they had their cabin, my in-laws, someone had land up there where they'd all bring their trailers and like hang out up there.
Really?
Yeah.
That little town of, do you have any stuff, any work in like Boulder or
no.
Torrey?
Mm-mm. Torrey I do.
Yeah, there's that great little restaurant, Hell's
Backbone. Oh, Hell's Backbone, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Hell's Backbone's awesome. Yeah, we manage Cougar Ridge in Torrey, Utah, which is an unbelievably incredible property. When it's all said and done, I think it'll be the best resort in the entire state.
Highway 12, like as soon as you like get by Bryce Canyon or Red Canyon,
Highway 12 is the greatest stretch of road. Cars, the movie Cars, the Disney movie, that Highway 12 is the inspiration for that.
Really?
Yeah, like Radiator Springs, like all that's Highway 12.
Yeah.
It's like if you ride the Cars ride in Disney or California Adventures, it's meant to represent Utah.
It's a long jaunt to go that way if you're going to Denver, but it's like so worth it. Takes maybe an extra hour and a half.
I mean, I'm afraid of heights, and so that particular stretch is like it's my worst nightmare. And I'll go on car rallies, and those crazy sons of bitches just drive the shit out of that stretch.
That section, that like the backbone is weird that there's no guardrails. Like it's literally
it's because it's too skinny for guardrails. There's nowhere to put them.
There's a white line and there's about 4 inches of asphalt, and then it just starts sloping.
Then you die.
It's death. Like
100% death.
You can count the seconds as you like roll off the cliff.
And being in a rally, there's like, there's the egos involved and all of that, right? You're driving cars fast.
So do you do that? The car rallies?
Yeah, love them. And so we're on it. We went from here and we went like through Highway 12. And we stayed at the Cougar Ridge, and then so on the way home, and I was so slow on Hell's Backbone because I'm just terribly afraid of heights, and so I feel like I'm ruining everyone's experience.
You're on the inside though because you're the driver.
Doesn't matter.
you're crossing the line and going towards the middle.
100%.
How do those work? I've never done one of those.
Like the car rallies?
Yeah.
So there's a couple different ones. The one that we spent a lot of time on is called Cars for Kids. And that's like the best one I've been on. They put so much effort into it, and all the money they raised for the Ronald McDonald House in Salt Lake. And so I've helped put that event on for the last couple of years. They did it for 10 years. They just finally stopped because it's so much work. But so you don't know where you're going. You know, like where you're starting. So for example, one year we started in Tahoe, and we knew we were ending in the coast in Oregon, but that's all you know. Here's where you're starting. Here's your stopping.
So every day they give you like a
route card. Because what they don't want is like people who don't know how to drive. And this is only like 30 cars. So it's a smaller, and it's real drivers, like people who know how to drive. So you don't want like a Honda Civic in the mix with like a 16-year-old who doesn't know what he's doing and is going to hurt himself or someone else. And so you ship your cars to Tahoe, and you get there, and the next morning you go down and there's a route card on your, and they do all the research. Like you said, looking at maps, they're finding roads that no one's really, and they go out and they test the roads first.
On purpose. They're trying to find empty roads on purpose.
That are just beautiful and incredible stretches. And so you wake up, you've got your route card, and it's like 4.6 miles turn here, 6.8 miles turn here, 94 miles. And you have a radio, so you're radioing with all the group. So like if you're in front of me, you can say, hey, you're clear to pass. No one's coming.
Is it a race, or you're just out having fun driving your car?
It's like we're all trying to get there as fast as we can.
But there's no is there like an award?
No, because that would probably, that would be precarious. But definitely we're all trying to drive as fast as we can, and you're trying to show you're a better driver than everyone else.
As you're passing people.
Yeah, 100%.
I've seen them like just driving to like Bryce Canyon. I'll always see them going up 89 because they probably get on 12 and do that. I've seen it, and I've always wondered, like, are they like racing on the road, like under the table? Like, how does this work here?
Yeah, for sure.
That's fun. It's fun to get your friends together or like-minded people and like
that's one of the best parts about it is you're building all these amazing relationships, and everyone's there to support the kids, and they put on these amazing dinners every night, and so it really creates this incredible sense of camaraderie. And the unfortunate part is the people on the road who didn't ask to be a part of it just accidentally are, and what they don't know is that we have radios, so they think we're being like irresponsible assholes.
Okay.
But like I know that I can pass you because someone's in front of you with a radio.
That makes sense, and I can see why. I've never thought that when they passed me, but I thought, wow, they're very daring.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah,
like 100%, you know, hey, you're good. Or like after this white Camry, you've got a huge distance before this black F-150.
And then when you go on one of those, you meet new friends and new people. And then, if you bond and you like them, then they start calling you and inviting you on their trips or like their rally. That's what's happening with like, just doing backpacking and stuff, but mainly like river trips is I have like river family now that we're all like putting in for permits because it's hard to get them. But you have this huge pool of friends that are all trying to get all these rivers. So it's like I'm doing the Hell's Canyon I'm doing Snake River in like 3 weeks, and then I'm doing the Salmon River into September, just because I had met people and they're like inviting me on their trips. And you get to
I think that's why pickleball is so popular, because you show up by yourself and then you end up making all these friends with new people, and you have this thing you all enjoy doing together. But so that Highway 12 story, so driving over, I was very slow and I felt like I ruined people's day. And so we went to lunch at that spot, know, and I was like, everyone's still eating. I slide out, I pay my tab. and then I leave before anyone else does, so I could go over Highway 12 without anyone behind me.
Got it.
Because I didn't want the pressure of having to drive fast because I'm so terribly afraid of heights. And then we did one of our rallies. We went through Colorado. We started in Salt Lake and ended in Boulder. And so we went to Pikes Peak. Do you know what Pikes Peak is?
Yeah. I've never been there, but I've
never been more scared in my life. You drive, the top of Pikes Peak is 14,000 feet. So when we went home, we shipped our cars. So we flew from Boulder to Denver, and the plane never got as high in altitude as Pikes Peak
Oh,
is.
really?
Yeah, and like you had to have the heat on your engine because you're climbing so high to like
keep it cool.
So you're pulling the heat off of the engine, and like everyone thought it was funny. I was afraid of heights, so they wanted my wife to like film me, and she started, and I was like, "You knocked that shit off," and she like rolled the window down. I was like, "Don't move."
Does it have like a yellow line? Is there lines on it?
Yeah, there's lines.
So there's two-way traffic, and there's traffic.
And there's parts there's not guardrails. I mean, at one point, a plane legit flew underneath us. Like, I'm a sweaty... And then the worst part is, in my mind, I had to drive to the top of Pikes Peak to get down the other side. So we get to the top, and he's like, "You ready to do it again?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, you go down the same way you came up." I was like, "Wait."
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I didn't even have to fucking come up here?
I'm here for there's things that you do that, like, you get there and it's time to do it. And you're like, why am I doing this? Like, this is nuts. I stopped rock climbing a while ago, but a friend invited me to go rock climbing the other day. And I'm like getting on it was the Prophecy Wall, which is by kind of Diamond Valley area.
Okay.
And I get on the wall and I'm like, not even to the first like clip. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. And he's like, don't be a pussy. Like, I'm not letting you off the wall. Like, you're going to finish this. And then I got up there. I'm like, okay, that was fun. But
yeah, I could probably never rock climb. With my fear of heights and just not a lot of strength in my fingers, I don't think I could do it.
Do you know Skylar Topham?
I do. Yeah, not like personally, but
he should come on the podcast.
Oh, that's what he does, huh? He like rock climbs all the time.
He got into it in his kids, and I'm so happy for his family and like his kids. Like to see young kids be like motivated and have something to like work on that's like outside of school. It's like rock climbing. Like, how cool is that?
That is very cool. Skylar Topham is famous because, for me anyways,
I was at that game.
So see,
yeah,
I don't even have to say it. You already know.
Yeah.
Fineview beats Dixie. Last second Scott. Skylar Topham steals it, makes it like 4 seconds left. We didn't even have to pass the ball in.
It was, I think he just held it.
No, he shot it.
Oh,
that's how they won. So I can't remember the guy's name.
Team was trying to hold it.
I can't remember his name. He was really good. Comes down, hits a 3 from like Steph Curry range. And we're like going crazy. So now you guys are down 1, but there's 5 seconds left. And the guy inbounding the ball, I believe his name was Nate. He could have just held it or just thrown it down the court. Tries to throw a pass in. I think he hit the bottom of the backboard, and Skylar happened to grab it, hits a layup, wins the game. Like, probably the best high school sporting event I've ever been to.
I never went to a lot of sports, but I remember going to that one because it was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
I remember like the bleachers like just vibrating because it was a big deal. Yeah.
And completely packed. Yeah. And that was in the Dixie's old gymnasium, which actually had, like, it was bigger because it went all the way to the top. Like the new one, you can't really put that many people in there, but the old gym, it was pretty special.
It's really great to do things and then to like grow up and look back at it and be like, oh, I'm so glad I did that.
Well, the fact that I said he's famous and you knew what I was talking about, I mean, because that would have been like 2003. So we're talking 21 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's still a vivid memory for us.
Yeah. That's crazy. It's weird. I'm almost 40. You kind of get up in the morning, you're like, oh, that kind of like I run every other day. I can't run every day. I mean, maybe I can. But like I can feel that I went for a run. Like you get up some mornings, you're like, oh, I'm not 25 anymore. Yeah,
I played pickleball last night and I was sitting on the couch and I got up and I was like, oh, and my wife's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, just my body's tired. You know, like I can feel it
today. Yeah.
Okay. Well, final question for you, Shelby. How do you define success?
The great thing about defining the success is that we get to define it.
Amen.
And it changes. Like my definition of success 5 years ago is different than it is today. Right now, my definition of success is being fully present in the moment and not wanting to be somewhere else.
Whew, that's good. Not wanting to be somewhere else. I fucking love that.
Like where I'm at, it's hard, right? You're not always there. You're worried about tomorrow. You're worried about this. But when you're just fully invested in the moment, it's the greatest feeling.
I fucking love that answer. I always tell people, when they ask for advice, they say, be where you are. I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? And I was like, if you're at work, then be committed to work. Don't be on your phone, texting your spouse or planning the evening. Like, just do that thing. And then the same thing when you're home and you're with your family, like, be with them.
Yeah.
Don't be worried about what your work email is or what you got going on tomorrow.
There's
like,
so many things pulling at you.
Yeah.
But if you like, you get home and like, I just want to hang out with my kids or chat with the wife. Like, that's great.
I think that's why we enjoy vacations so much, is because when you're on vacation, you just are where you are. You're not worried about anything else. You're just taking in whatever happens in the day, you know, and like all of life's responsibilities don't exist for those 7 days or wherever it is.
It is weird to step outside your life and be like, yeah, this is what we're doing for the next 5 days, like on a trip or a vacation. And it's like, yeah, like, you want to go get some food? Let's go get some food. You want to go down to the beach? Like, that's fun. I love doing that. And if I can do more of that.
Well,
great.
and that's what life is, right? Like, that's what life is meant to be. And that's what makes you reflect back when you have to request work off, or maybe you can't go because you have to work. And then that's what I think what is so amazing about being an entrepreneur is then you can plan those occasions in, you know,
Absolutely.
like when we went to Disneyland, I was on conference calls like the whole way there. And like on my computer in the passenger seat, my wife was driving, and I was like, obviously I would rather not be doing this, but it's a small price to pay to have the next 5 days with just me, you, and the kids doing whatever we want to do.
Agreed.
So, okay, well, that's a fucking awesome answer. And I think I would be remiss to not point out, especially for the younger listeners, not to tie yourself to what you think success is forever and be in constant pursuit of what you thought you wanted.
When you climb that totem pole, and we're all climbing something.
Yeah.
Sometimes you realize you need to jump off of it and like, just, you know, like let go of the pride and start over.
Absolutely. 100%. So if someone is in Southern Utah and they want the baddest ass garage doors there are, how can they find you?
They can go visit my Instagram or my website. It's moenave.com, Moenave. And I'm sure you'll add it to the show notes.
I'll put the website down there in the show notes. Is there an Instagram for the garage doors too?
Moenave Garage Doors.
Okay, I'll put both of those. What about your personal? Do you want people to?
Yeah, Shelby Meinkey. I do a lot of stories. I need to start doing more reels, but I'll usually go on like a trip and I'll punch out like 50 stories.
Oh, cool.
Of just going through with like just what this was like for the last week and show it also.
Do you store those so you can go back? Like,
I started putting that little bubble.
Yeah, that's
so
what I mean.
started doing that, and so it's Shelby Meinkey. You can add it to the show notes.
Because it'd be dope to go back and watch like the river trip if you had done it at that time, like to go through that.
So there's one rapid in the Grand Canyon that's like notorious. Okay, we have time for this?
Yeah.
There's a saying.
Bonus time.
So let's just go back to the Grand Canyon. So for your 18 days, you're on this trip, and every day you're waking up and you're doing river miles, and you're doing scary stuff. You're having fun. You're getting back to the beach, having beers, and it's like there's this one rapid towards the end. It's called Lava Falls, and it's one of the nastier ones. So the whole time you're on this trip, you're thinking about it.
You know it's ahead of you.
You know that it's ahead of you, and the chances of you dying are slim, but there's a couple spots.
But you can die.
You can die, and it's not going to be fun. No one likes to be held down underwater.
Yeah, that's a bad way to go.
So every day you're getting closer and closer and closer, and the group kind of starts getting a little more anxious. And then it's like the day of, and you're like, everyone's not eating. Like, hey, no one's eating breakfast. And I was like, they're going to like throw up in the corner in the back. Anyways.
Sounds fun.
Oh, it's great. No, hold on. Because once you get through it, the next stop below Lava Falls is Tequila Beach, and it's a celebration.
Okay.
And we stopped there and spent the night, and I realized something. There's a saying, you're always above lava. As soon as I went through lava, all I can think about is going back and doing it again.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
What a great way to end.
It is.
Okay. Well, Shelby, thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate it. That was a great story. Great to get to know you. And I look forward to watching your river trips.
Thank you. I'm glad you had me.